Hey everyone, I'm Joel Green and welcome to Curiosity Quest, the show that explores what you, the viewer, are curious about. Now today our quest letter came to us from Loma Linda, California. Wasif wrote, "Dear Joel, I'm curious, how do they make a bus?" Well Wasif, because of you, we are out here in Lancaster, California, home of BYD, where we're going to learn how they build buses. So let's begin today's Curiosity Quest. Let's go. Well, we're in the BYD factory and I'm here with Bobby. Bobby, what does BYD stand for?
We get asked that quite a few times. It stands for Build Your Dream. And it's really about our founder's vision, and he's building his dream in hopes that cities build their dream with sustainable energy and vehicles and LED light bulbs and helping Mother Nature along.
Now, this is, if you can't hear it, it's loud in here. And building your dream, we're building buses basically, right?
We are, and the great thing about our buses, as opposed to any other bus that you see out on the street, our buses don't run on any fuel. These are 100% electric buses, and we plug them in at night just like your cell phone.
Really?
Yeah.
So how many buses can this factory make in a year?
At our current state, we're probably around 400. We're going to get to 1,200 a year with all of our new expansion that we've got going on.
And this isn't the only place where you're actually building buses in the world, right?
No, in fact, we are the largest electric bus builder in the world. And we have around 14,000 units that have been produced, and orders just coming in every day, as you can tell by what's going on here.
There's a lot of commotion around me. We're going to start showing it to you in a minute. But before we do that, in order to build a bus, the first question I have is, where do you start? Wait a minute, before you answer, how about you answer? Where do you start when it comes to building a bus?
I think I'll start with the wheels and then I'll build up from there and try to see like how big like the interior would be, and then work on like the outside as well.
I think you should start with the tires and start with the engine and painting the parts that you put together.
Say from maybe like the wheels and set up the ground first and then just build up.
When you start building a bus, you have to build the motors first, and then after you do the motors, you have to start building the outside, like the structure part, and then you have to start with connecting your pieces to like the wheels.
What is the first step to building a bus?
The very first step is to bring this big black chassis in here, and this is where the wheels and the tires will go on. This particular unit here is the front end of a 60-foot long bus, like the ones you see in a large city that bend in the middle.
Wow!
So this is the front half of a 60-foot bus, and then we'll build the back half of it. So we start the chassis, then if you look in there, we've got some sidewalls that we've put on, and then we bring in the roof, and from that point, we'll put on a front cap and a rear cap, and then we'll just roll it out of here. Eventually, we'll get to some other things on down through the show.
So the chassis is essentially the floor of the bus?
It is. If you can visualize it, all this structure here, shortly, we'll have plywood over the front, over the top of it, and then we'll put the flooring on, depending on what the customer wants, what color they want. Then we'll put in some side panels, and eventually they'll have seats and windows, and you'll be walking in there to get on your seat and go where you need to go.
You know, visualizing 60 feet long, that is long. I mean, an average car is about how long?
Oh, I would say probably, what, 16 feet, 12 to 16 feet?
So it's like taking several cars and stack it together to get the size of, that's a big bus.
And the great thing about the engineering is just to see it actually move in the middle, and you can walk between both cars just like you can on a train.
Wow. So once the chassis has the sidewalls and the ceiling, what's next?
Then we're going to pull it out of this marry-up machine, and we're going to take it over to our welding area. And then they're going to start putting some side panels on to really close in the bus.
All right, well, I'll follow you.
All right, let's go.
Fun fact, fun fact, fun fact. Here's your fun fact.
The bus got its name from the Latin word omnibus, meaning for all.
So the chassis has the walls, the ceiling. Now what's happening?
Okay, so what we're doing now is they're actually putting all the side pieces on the outside, and then they're starting to put some of the pieces on the inside, covering up the wheel wells, making the bus watertight, making it airtight, so it's not as cold on the bus as it is in here today.
So what you're saying is I'm gonna have to get on a bus in a little bit,
Exactly.
Huh? Wow, now, are all the sides metal?
The sides are aluminum.
Aluminum,
So
okay.
those are aluminum panels he's putting on, and it takes some pretty skilled technicians to be able to weld and to grind the aluminum.
Now, here at the factory, do you cut and weld all these pieces yourself, or they come in pre-cut and pre-welded?
We have some pieces that do come in pre-cut, but most of them we actually do cut here ourselves.
So they've actually just taken this piece to make it fit right on here, right?
That's exactly right.
And then every little facet is going on, huh?
Exactly. So those are the window openings. So eventually we'll get down to another section to where you'll be able to see them actually just put a window in and screw it in and make sure that no water comes in the bus.
Are we looking at the back or the front of this bus?
This bus would be the rear end
Okay.
of that 60-footer that we were talking about earlier.
Oh, wow.
And this is one of the buses that'll be going basically here in this area for Antelope Valley Transit.
Oh,
So AVTA, this is one of their buses.
So is the back and the front the last pieces that go on?
We'll actually assemble the bus once we get wheels and tires underneath it.
Okay.
And then move it on through final assembly.
Okay.
So right now it's almost treated as two different buses, a front and a rear. So we've
Okay.
got a 35-foot up front and a 25-foot bus in the back. And eventually we're going to join them together to make that 60 feet.
Where does the engine go in those buses that are?
That's a really good question, because since we're totally electric, there is no engine.
Oh, did I just ask a trick question? I didn't even know that. Wait, say that again. There's no engine to an electric bus.
There is no engine to an electric bus.
This is a good question. We're going to find out from them. Where does the engine go on an electric bus? Where does the engine go in an electric bus?
The engine goes somewhere under the bus.
Probably in like the center of the bottom of the bus.
Would there be an engine though? Because it's like an electricity.
I would say probably either in the center or back.
In the back?
Isn't there no engine if it's electric? Don't you gotta plug it in somewhere? Because I mean, there's no gas. It's an electric bus, so there's probably no engine. It's just it's the motor more or less of a combustion engine.
So they're just literally just slapping it on and then doing what?
What they're doing here, we actually adhere it with basically an adhesive. There'll be rivets involved, there'll be welding involved. So when we walked over, he was putting on this piece, and if you'll look over here, it's actually got a number.
Yes.
And then they've moved on back to that piece, it's got a different number. So basically following the pattern, all the pieces are labeled so we get them into the right spot.
It's like a giant puzzle.
It is a big puzzle.
What's happening right here?
This is the front of a bus. So behind here is the metal cap, and then we put fiberglass over the front of it, and that's what starts giving it its shape.
Gotcha.
Just like the front end of the car, and that's kind of where the styling goes into. So then we'll eventually put in headlights, we'll put in the turn signals, and we'll put a bumper, and this will be lots of different pretty colors and it'll look good coming down the road.
Now, this, I see a lot of the aluminum you were talking about, and of course the chassis is metal, right? Steel.
Correct, steel.
And then, is this, what, fiberglass?
That is fiberglass.
Okay. Why is there a difference in the materials?
Well, the fiberglass is a whole lot easier to work with, and we have different fronts for our buses, so some of our customers like one look versus another. Lets us, basically do some trimming on it, takes the paint a whole lot better so we can get the really neat shapes, and it's a whole lot tougher to do with hard metal.
Who typically buys your buses?
The majority of our customers are transit agencies, so in your hometown, in your city, when you see the city buses going around, those are the folks that would buy our buses. Here locally, Antelope Valley Transit, we have LADOT. You'll see a lot of buses here on the final assembly line that are big red and blue buses, and those are all going to Denver, Colorado for their local transit agency.
Oh, wow. There are so many people working on these buses. I don't think I've ever seen this many people in a factory this size.
You know, our buses are fairly customized to the client or to our customer. Not all transit agencies order the same size of bus. When it comes to width or length, we have several different models, and it's really hard to do a lot of automation. We prefer to consider ourselves fine craftsmen.
Okay, it appears that way, yeah.
So right now I think we're close to 500 employees at this location. A lot of people come in with a really good skill set. They might be a welder, they might know how to polish and grind stainless steel, they might be flooring people, they might know how to work on the air conditioners, and if they don't, we're willing to train people.
Fun fact, fun fact, fun fact. Here's your fun fact.
Have you ever wondered why the school bus is always yellow? Scientists determined that the color yellow catches the eye quicker and is easier to detect in bad weather.
Bobby, we have the outside skin on the bus, and now we're inside the bus. What's happening in here?
What's happening now is we've got a gentleman that's cutting pieces of insulation. So much like the puzzle pieces we saw going on the outside of the bus, now he's going to cut all these pieces to fit up in all these holes that you see, whether it's here where he already has some pieces, he's cut a little piece about like this, then he's going to do that all through the bus. So we're insulating the bus just like you would your house at home.
That's what this is right here.
That is our insulation that goes in between the walls.
It's like a foam. It's like a really nice foam.
It is a foam, and that's one of those things that we also, our customers can also specify which type of foam, depending on the environment that the buses are working out of, whether it's a really cold climate or a warm climate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and if they want it to repel water, all sorts of things that we can do.
Really? So this already has the insulation on, like you said.
That's correct.
Wow, and it really doesn't seem that thick when I'm touching it on the wall. Right here it feels pretty thick.
It's pretty thick, and then it does the job, because what we also have to have is we have to have room for wires and things like that to go in those walls. Just like at home, if you were putting in a receptacle, we're not going to have receptacles here, but we have radio equipment. We have the destination signs. If you've ever been on a bus and it tells you what your next stop is, we have to run that wiring all through the bus.
You know, it's crazy. You're talking about a puzzle, and I'm looking at all these holes. That's a lot of space to fill.
It is a lot of space to fill, and this is a little bit of a time-consuming project. And you can see the guys here. They're very precise in their measurements, and everything has to fit just right.
Once we have the insulation in the bus, what's next?
Once we have the insulation in, then we move over to what we call our chassis assembly, and that is actually going to put the wheels and the tires on the bus. So now it can really roll around on its own. And then once we've done that, we'll put it into a paint booth, we'll prep it, and we'll put primer on. So those are the next two things in the process.
So now we're going to put the wheels on the bus so
We're
they
going to
can
put
go
the wheel round and round.
Let's go.
Fun fact, fun fact, fun fact. Here's your fun fact.
In 1662, the very first horse-drawn bus was introduced in Paris.
How long does it take to put the axle on the bus?
This is usually a 2-day process that'll be in this station, because it's one of the most important. It's what's driving the bus, and the way the electric bus works, we talked earlier on that there's no engine. So basically inside each of our rear wheel hubs, it's an electric motor. So each rear wheel has its own electric motor that's spinning, much like a great big radio control car.
Yeah, okay. So it's moving those back wheels. That's what's making the bus move.
That's correct.
And what are they doing in the back right there?
What they're getting ready for is running all of the cabling and the wiring for our electric motors. So again, kind of like wiring up a home, and where we talked about the spaces in between the walls where we're going to run wires, they're going ahead and starting putting some of that wiring in this bus.
Okay. So what's the next step?
Next step is we're going to go into paint. Then we're going to see them put some color on, and hopefully there'll be a bus that they're doing that to.
Yeah, let's go find out.
Okay.
Fun fact, fun fact, fun fact. Here's your fun fact.
The electric trolley bus, operated by overhead cables, was invented in the 1830s.
So this bus behind us actually has the wheels on it.
We finally got wheels and tires on one so it can roll on its own.
And then it's been painted or primed, right?
Yeah, this gray color here is the primer. Feel it?
Oh yeah.
Nice and smooth. A lot of the imperfections have been taken out of the bus. So it's actually going to be ready for paint here very shortly.
Okay.
And we're going to go right into that great big old booth over there.
Wow. So they're actually painting this bus
They
as
are
we
painting.
speak.
Everything has been taped off. So this bus happens to be a Denver bus. The bus we just looked at, which is primered, that's a Denver bus.
Okay.
So once this bus is completely painted, it's going to be red and blue. They're going to give it time to dry in there, let the paint not be tacky anymore.
And then after the bus is done being painted, it's going to look like that, huh?
It's going to look just like that.
You got to check this out. So we're going to slide over this way. Boom! That's a cool looking bus.
That's an interesting bus. If anybody ever has the opportunity to go to Denver, this will be going to Denver. And if you go to the 16th Street Mall, which is one of North America's largest pedestrian malls, the only thing that is on that pedestrian mall is these buses and people walking around.
Oh, that's cool.
And this is 45 feet long. It'll hold 118 people.
Wow. Why put the tires on the bus before you paint it? Because all you're doing is covering up the tires while you paint it.
It's a really good question. Those buses are so big and even weigh quite a bit right now. It helps us move them throughout the whole manufacturing process from station to station.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, but.
All right, once it's painted, what next?
What next? Then after we're painting, we're going to go start putting in what's going to make the bus go. We saw the motors being installed.
Oh, the engine.
But no, we're going to go look at where the batteries are put on.
Ah, all right, let's go.
All right.
Electric buses do not have motors, so what makes the bus go?
Electricity, and maybe like a big, cable, like not cable, but like a battery. Sunlight.
Electricity. It probably has solar panels on the top.
Electricity, maybe like satellites, or like it could charge overnight.
I would say an electric battery, something close to an electric battery.
Maybe I've seen like some movies where they use like some wire above.
Bobby, if there's no engine on the bus, then what moves the bus?
Well, since we are 100% electric with no motor, no diesel fuel, no regular gasoline, we have to have batteries that can produce the energy to turn those electric motors that we saw earlier. This station here, we call it the mezzanine, and this is where we install the batteries onto the buses. So most of the batteries on our buses are up on the roof. And if you look over to one of the buses that's going through the finish line, you'll see a large white container up on top, and that has probably about 80% of the batteries for that bus located right there.
You put the batteries on the roof?
We do. There's not a lot of room on the bus, so we have to be creative as far as the space where they would go. So most all of our buses will have some sort of a battery pack on the roof, and then the other batteries will be spaced throughout the bus to help with weight distribution or just a good place to put them.
One of the things I want to make sure to clear up the confusion, there's no engine, but there's a motor.
There are two motors. There's one on each rear wheel that spins, and that's what pushes the bus.
But no giant engine like you would think in a car or typical bus where it's in the back of the bus?
No engine, and more importantly, no tailpipe. So if you've ever sat behind an old city bus in traffic and black smoke's rolling out, you don't have to worry about that with our buses.
Bobby, it's starting to look like a bus.
We're starting to get everything dried in right now, and we've got a gentleman behind us. He's actually taking a sander and he's sanding all the imperfections out of the floor, and they're getting ready. Once all that's done, they'll clean it, they'll vacuum everything out, and then they'll spray glue down and apply the floor.
But speaking of a floor, we put in a floor now.
We have a floor so we can walk and not fall through any of the cross members.
And then I see a lot, wires hanging everywhere. What are they doing on the inside right here?
Right, what this gentleman's working on right now, the clear hose is a drain hose for our air conditioning system.
Okay.
Just kind of like what you have at your house or even in a car, that water from the evaporation's got to go somewhere. And then all the wires you see hanging, especially here in this section, this would be one of our entrance doors is for passengers to get on and off. Oh. So it has to have electricity, and then the driver would actuate that. So that's what these wires are, would be for this door assembly here.
Okay. And then is this where passengers are going to end up sitting?
Yeah, we're going to end up having seats all along here.
I probably don't want to sit right now.
And then this also, we talked about where we have to put our batteries for weight distribution and just where we have room.
Yeah.
There'll be batteries underneath all these passenger seats as well.
And I notice we're really low to the ground right now. Is there a reason for that?
It's a good question because on this bus, this is still one of the Denver, Colorado buses that'll be operating on that pedestrian mall.
Okay.
This bus has two different modes of drive. We call it D1 or D2. And what it allows the operator to do is operate the bus in its lowest possible position so that when he pulls up to a curb, that entry is right at the curb height. So there is not a big step down for anybody, they just step right off onto the sidewalk.
Will this have the shocks where, you know, they go, when the bus stops, it goes...
This one will always be in that low height while it's operating on the mall.
Okay.
And then they would put it into D2, and that will let them get from the mall back to their garage at a normal height and at a normal speed.
I can't help but notice the steering wheel is on the right-hand side of the bus versus the left-hand side of the bus. What's up with that?
Well, you know, when we talked about we work with our customers on what they need and the configuration they need for a bus, Denver was pretty adamant about having a right-hand drive because all that bus does is hug a curb all day long down in that pedestrian mall. So this enables him to stay right on the curb and see where he's at all times because they literally stop every block to pick up people.
Bobby, we're in the back of the bus and I see an engine, I think. What is this?
So remember, we don't have an engine.
You keep telling me that, but what's that big thing right there?
This big thing right here is our air compressor. And it's an AC powered air compressor, so we could literally pull that out of the bus, put it over in the corner, hook up electricity to it, and we could run all the shop tools here.
Okay, but what about that thing right there? Come on.
That we call a V2G. It's a vehicle to grid inverter. And we have two of those on the bus. This side here operates that right motor in the right rear wheel.
Okay.
This left one operates the one on the left-hand side.
Okay. Let me just double check. I'm looking for, you know what I'm looking for?
A tailpipe.
A tailpipe.
Keep looking. We're going to be here all day.
I don't see it. Okay, now here's the front of the bus. This is typically where you keep the, look at your lights open up like that. This is where a lot of the engines go, right? Is this open?
Correct. That'll open up. Take a look in there.
Well,
you think that's an engine?
That you're gonna tell me no. So, what is that?
That's a defroster.
A defroster?
Yeah, you got to keep that windshield clean so the driver can see out on the coldest day.
Well, that's a big defroster. Well, looks like we're coming together here. Oh wow, we have a different flooring down now.
That's the actual floor that the customer picked. So this would be considered a type of linoleum or a product that you would put in your home on a kitchen floor or a bathroom floor. This one's a little bit more industrial, so it takes a lot of traffic, takes a lot of abuse.
I noticed you have this computer brain, for lack of better words, all encased now.
That's to help protect everything, and then there'll be special keys that only the radio engineers at the local transit agencies can get in and do any work that they need to. So that controls, it's the controllers for the doors, controllers for the destination sign, the radios, anything that is specifically put onto this bus by that transit agency, that's all spec'd to what they need and what their buses all have. Not a lot of transit agencies isolate the driver, but because they need a low floor bus all the way through, the design lent itself to having an actual barrier between the driver and the passengers.
Okay. You know, I'm curious, we haven't talked about this yet, but how long does it take to make a bus? Now, before you answer that, let's hear from you guys. How long do you think it takes to actually make a bus? How long does it take to make a bus?
I would say about a week or two.
A month or 2 months.
Like 2 months or something, because you have to start with motors and all that and make other stuff. So
6 months to a year.
3 months, maybe.
Maybe like a month.
3 months.
It would take about a week or two.
A couple of months if you're working at it like every day. Like a day or two. How many people are making the bus?
Okay, 22.
22 people are making the bus, probably take them like 3 days.
How long is it, Bobby?
6 months to a year, depending on everything that has to go into a bus. And remember, we build several different models, from a small little 23-footer all the way up to that big 60-foot that bends in the middle.
Sure.
So some buses take a little bit less time, some take a little bit longer time.
6 months to a year.
Correct.
Wow. Wow. All right. Well, we got a lot more work to do, I guess.
We do.
Show me what you look like driving a bus. Okay. Oh no, I'm sorry. This way. My bad. There you guys go. My bad. There you go. Sorry about that. Oh my God. Bobby, there's a couple things I noticed when we come in this bus. Number one, it's looking good.
You bet.
Number two, there's lights.
We have lights, so the bus is actually running. And I don't know if you can hear it, but it's quiet.
You mean am I listening for the engine? Is that what you're asking?
Remember, there's no engine.
I don't hear it running. You know, but the number three thing that I really noticed, which has to do with the electricity,
Yes.
is it is warm in here. You actually have the heater on in the bus. Not in the factory, in the bus.
In the bus, we've got the guys, this is in the final assembly stage. We call this the finish line or the test line. So this bus is literally probably within 5 days of being delivered to Denver. So we've got our seats in, the beautiful fabric they picked out, floors are in, all of our ADA and our wheelchair restraints are in. So right now it's just kind of touch up and clean up, just like you'd be getting ready, your car ready for a show.
Wow, and how many people can this bus hold?
This bus is designed to have standing and seated 118 people.
And the smallest bus you make?
About 21.
Okay, so 21 to 120 people.
Correct.
Fun fact, fun fact, fun fact. Here's your fun fact.
The largest bus is in China at 82 feet long and can hold over 300 passengers.
So Bobby, this just went through the water test?
Started the water test process, and then you can see they've still got some things taped up in there, so it'll be getting all the touch-up paint done, and like I say, this one's very close to getting shipped out.
Wow, so this water is pretty important to do a water test. You don't think about it, especially on a day where it's actually raining today.
Correct. Yeah, anything that's out in the public like that, and even our own cars, we don't think about it, but every manufacturer does some sort of a water test to make sure when it is a really bad rainy day that water's not coming in your sunroof or anything else.
So once it's completed with this, what's next?
We'll actually turn it over to the customer, and they'll make sure everything's fine, and they'll sign off on it that it's acceptable to be shipped. We'll put it onto a truck, and then the bus will be shipped to its new home.
And that's it, huh? We built the bus.
We built the bus.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Bobby. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Come and see us again.
You bet. Well, this looks like my stop. I want to thank Bobby and everyone out here at BYD for showing us how they make electric buses. And I especially want to thank USC for sending us on today's Curiosity Quest. Now, if there's something you want to know more about, let me hear from you. Go to curiosityquest.org, click on the Send Us on a Quest link, and simply tell me what you're curious about. And who knows, it could be you that sends us on our next endeavor. Now remember, every great adventure begins with just one person's curiosity. So I wonder, what are you curious about? I'm Joel Green. I'll see you next time. What, the evergreen or the mint green? Oh, spearmint green. Okay, I got it.